Welcome and hello. Today we're going to go through the Knoxville real estate market update for the month of March 2020, and we're going to get started. Welcome everybody, this is All Things Knoxville, and I'm Ben Barredo, a local realtor with Coldwell Banker Wallace here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Today I'm going to discuss the most recent housing market data for both the U.S. economy and then the local data for Knoxville, Tennessee. In this video, we're going to cover the numbers for the month of March 2022. But before we do that, make sure that you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. And then if you want to, share this video out there in your social media with people you know that may enjoy it or may find it helpful in their lives. And as always, if you need a realtor for any reason, give me a call, shoot me a text message. My contact information is in the description. It's usually scrolling somewhere in here at some point in the video, so it's pretty easy to get a hold of me. Don't hesitate to do so. Before we talk about Knoxville and what I've been seeing in the local market, let's touch base on the U.S. housing market stats first. Starting with the national inventory of active listings, this number has once again declined, and this time by about 19% from last year. On top of that, unsold homes as well as pending homes declined by 12.5%. The inventory of active listings was down 62% compared to 2020. In other words, for every 5 homes that were available back then, there are only 2 available today. Still, let me put some clarity on this, or at least my opinion, is this really an inventory problem? Well, yes it is, but slightly not in a different way than you think. It is down as sellers are listing at a lower pace than in the past, and additionally builders are falling behind on building compared to past numbers. But more than anything, what's really happening is there are too many buyers for the listing pace to keep up with. So homes are being bought so quickly, it's impacting these listing numbers. Sometimes homes are coming on and off the market so quickly, they're not even going to be counted in these stats. So do we really have an inventory problem? Well, yes, but it's a typical economic supply-demand problem. Yes, we do have an inventory problem, but for reasons that you may not think about. So how do we fix it? We'll talk about that later, maybe. Newly listed homes nationwide is down 3.4% compared to a year ago. And overall, sellers are listing at 12% lower than in 2017 and 2019. That's not so low that it creates a 62% decrease in active listings though. So once again, we don't have an inventory problem as much as we have an extremely high demand problem. And some people are saying millennials are not buying houses. I don't know where they're getting that from. It's craziness. Somebody's buying these houses. The March national median list price for active listings was $405,000, which is up 13.5% from last year and 26.5% from 2020. Nationally, the typical home spent about 38 days on the market in March, which is down 11 days from the same time last year. So does this include homes that sell in a day, and homes that have just hit the market and immediately go pending or sold for cash? Probably not. Just another thing skewing those statistics. So now let's talk about Knoxville, Tennessee. And before we jump into the actual numbers and the stats, let me tell you a little bit about what I'm seeing boots on the ground. So yes, we are still seeing the effects of a low inventory, high demand market. Homes are selling relatively slower than a few months ago due to both rising interest rates as well as growing inventory. Still, our sales numbers are still record-breaking, and that tells me that we're still going strong with motivated buyers that are well qualified, and they're using equity, savings, aka cash, and good mortgages to buy homes. This isn't 2008 where everybody was buying homes with a subprime mortgage that blew up in their faces after 3 to 5 years. And then they found themselves in debt, underwater, and all of that. We're also not looking at interest rates that are the highest they've ever been in the history of the United States. 5% is more than it was last year and 2 years ago, but if you look back at the 80s and the 90s, Well, go look at those years and then tell me 5% is still high. Yes, houses cost more and people don't make as much as they did when you're adjusting for inflation, but you also have more, two-income households and more educated people that understand these things than we saw back then. I personally don't see a crash coming, but maybe that's just my optimism. So with that a little bit of insight out of the way, let's talk about the numbers. Let's get to the facts. And starting with the average and median sales price. Listen, all previous reports that I provided, I usually just do the average sales price, but recently I've started including the median sales price. While the median sales price is the most common sales price for our area, when we look at the average sales price in comparison, this chart right here shows us that the sales in the upper bracket continue to be strong. That's why the average price is higher than the median sales price. Our average sales price for March was just over $385,000, while our median price was just around $310,000. Both numbers are record-breaking numbers, however. Moving on to sales price versus list price ratio, this number basically tells us how much the final sales totals are compared to the list price. In other words, what is the price the house sold for versus what the seller originally wanted it to sell for, or was hoping they would get for it. So while it's been generally climbing, it does ebb and flow. Right now we're sitting at a sales price that is about 101% of the list price. But you'll notice that last year at this time we were sitting at 100%. That as the sales season came along, this number increased a bit. So I wonder where it will go this year. Now, let's discuss the number of properties sold and the absorption rate. We were just a few sales shy of last March's figure, but pretty steady, really. If these trends continue, we should expect a slow rise in April and May, then a larger jump beginning in June. The absorption rate, however, has gone down since December. This number tells us how quickly inventory is being claimed. If you look at 2019 through 2020, you'll see that pre-pandemic absorption rate showed a pretty balanced market. Then, as the market heated up, homes began being absorbed at a higher and higher rate. It would seem that according to the graph, our lightest market was last March, when absorption rate was at an MLS record. Next, we're going to discuss the average days on market, or how quickly homes are selling. The general trend line here shows that a normal year of 2019, the number of days on market dips during the selling season, which if you haven't caught on yet, that we're in the selling season now. In 2020, it generally decreased as the year progressed, reaching a low this past summer. But now we see it's increasing slightly again, for an average time on the market of 32 days, start to finish. This is the first time in a while we've been over the 30-day mark. Still very fast, and if the trends hold steady, this number is likely to decrease over the next few months. Now let's discuss inventory and months of supply of inventory, or MSI. And guess what? The number of properties for sale in March of this year was nearly 29% higher than the inventory from last March. That's great. The MSI stands for the months of supply of inventory, which means at the current rate of sales, we'd be sold out of homes in about a month and a half. We're also headed in the right direction here if you consider the fact that in the past months, we have not been able to pass the 30-day mark, and now we're at a month and a half. But we've got a long way to go, obviously, before the market becomes less frantic, in other words. Now and finally, we're going to discuss new listings. Here's the super good news. Inventory in March was up nearly 39% from February and exceeded the past 2 years at the same time. And as the trend lines show, this number typically continues to go up through the sales season, which again we're in the middle of, which will give buyers more choice than they've had in the past several months or maybe even year. So what do you think? Are you excited about the upcoming sales season? Are you still a little deflated and not sure what to do? Well, listen, if you have any questions or concerns about anything I discussed or anything you come across in the real estate market, give me a call. Reach out to me. I'm happy to help you out and help you find the right answer. But for now, that's it for this month's real estate market update. That's it for today's video. I hope it was educational and entertaining. Thanks so much for stopping by, and until next week, bye-bye.